G'day, it's Karl Thomson here from StorageCraft ANZ, and I'm glad to be presenting a StorageCraft ShadowControl demonstration today. Now, I haven't done one of these videos for a while, so it includes quite a lot of new functionality since ShadowControl 3.5 right the way through to the current version of ShadowControl 3.8. So you're going to see a lot of functionality around the new dashboard look, the push installers, the SPX job-based scheduling, and a bunch of other functions including the reporting. So let's dive straight in and take a look. Firstly, just on the StorageCraft website, if I go across to support and then software downloads and updates, this is where you can download all of the StorageCraft software. Just scrolling right to the bottom, StorageCraft ShadowControl download. So you can see the current version 3.8. This consists of two components, the ShadowControl endpoint agent. This gets installed onto all of your ShadowProtect version 5 or SPX installs, onto all your image manager machines. It's completely multi-tenancy, so each of your customers or your different sites can run this agent, and then that talks to the ShadowControl appliance. So you can download the ShadowControl appliance builder. It's an ISO. You can boot up a physical server or a physical machine rather, or a virtual machine, and roll out this appliance. It really just needs a couple of cores, a couple of gigs of memory, an 80 gig thin provision hard disk is going to be more than sufficient, and this will give you the ability to install the ShadowControl appliance. It's based on a locked down version of Linux, so you don't need any Microsoft licensing to run this, and as I mentioned before, it's completely multi-tenancy, so one hosted version of this that you can run can manage all of your customers or your different sites. So let's jump straight in. Once the appliance builder has installed, it just simply redirects you to a website of the configured IP address that you've built the appliance with. So this is what the dashboard looks like when you first log in. On the left-hand side, I've got my ShadowProtect status, so I can see there in green, I've got 3 machines that are okay, and then there's 4 there, if I highlight over them, that are unresponsive. Now, if these 4 machines were failing or there was any errors, that would obviously be in red. In this instance, those machines are just powered off. So if I go ahead and click on these machines, it will take me to this endpoint filtered page, which shows me the 4 endpoints, what their name is, which customer or site they're related to, when the last backups were, and the installed versions of the ShadowProtect software. So we can see that little green arrow is actually indicating there is an update available, and we could actually go ahead and do a push install to update them. On the right hand side, we've got a customizable column that can perhaps show the last reboot time or the status, etc. And down the bottom left here, we have the bulk actions to perhaps bulk activate, unsubscribe, or pause these jobs, etc. So very, very quick way to access things. If I go back to the dashboard, in the center here, we've got the image manager status. So in my environment, I just have one running, but obviously each customer should have their own image manager each site. So this should represent all of your image managers. If any of them were failing, again, you would see an issue, if there was an issue with verification, consolidation, or retention. If replication jobs were exceeding a certain threshold, it can alert you in orange as a warning or red as a critical issue on the dashboard. And then on the right is the ShadowControl endpoint agent that obviously sits alongside the ShadowProtect and image manager softwares. Underneath this, we get some notifications around anything that's happening in terms of the status, and then at the bottom is just a running log. You don't clear this log, it just shows you the last sort of 10 events, I think it is, of any errors that may have happened. So if we jump back to the endpoints view, this is the full view which lists all of the machines. I can very quickly filter this, perhaps just by Auckland. It's going to list my machines there. I can see down the bottom STC VMM01. This machine has, this is currently on. So it gives me a bit of information around the machine, the memory, the processor, the organization. So I've assigned it to a particular organization, which I'll talk about shortly. But more importantly, it has a backup policy. So this is a backup job that I've created on ShadowControl and assigned it to that machine. So I didn't have to log on and manually create a job. So if we look down here, it's got the policy job name. It includes C drive and the recovery petition, the last success, the last finish time, and the next runtime, etc. I can see here down here the path that it's backing up to, and it even lists all of the volumes and tells me that they are both protected, so that's all good. Let's go and look at this machine, VMM01. I'll just minimize that for a second, and I'm going to open up SPX. So this is the backup job. Now if I right click on this and try and pause it, I try and delete it or edit the job, it comes up with this warning saying this is a locked job, it is managed by ShadowControl. So this is really good, it enables me to control this policy and make sure that no one is tampering with this on the particular endpoint. If I just quickly pop back to ShadowControl and tell it perhaps to run this job, and quickly pop back to SPX, we can see there the job has gone green, it is immediately running. So this is all driven via the new SPX REST API. This is a really great way to control our jobs and deployment. So it's very, very easy. Let's just go and take a quick look at what that actually consists of. Up here over on the right, this button here, Managed Endpoints, if I click on that, there are two components to creating a policy. It's creating a backup store and then creating the policy. So firstly, if we look at backup store, and I go add backup store, this would be the name of the site where your shared directory is. This is where ShadowProtect is going to be backing up to. Now ShadowControl appliance itself doesn't need to have access to this, so basically I could call this customer A. Down here the path would be, the NAS/share or whatever directory, your backup server, and the credentials for that. This is what's going to get passed over to SPX. On the right we can also configure the Linux endpoints for this. So once you've created a store, you can then go down and create a policy. So basically if I go and add a policy, this is like creating a backup job. So again, I might call this customer A 30min 24/7 job perhaps, or something along those lines. Protection scheme, we want to back up all volumes, and then we choose the backup store that we want to send the backups to. Because I didn't specify a Linux path, it does say in brackets Windows only. On the right, compression and encryption. Under schedule, we can choose the various types, but continuous incrementals is the main one here. I can select all days, every day a week, all day, so it's 24/7. And repeat every 15 minutes, so it's 96 backups a day. We can also specify a random time start delay, so perhaps of every 15 minutes. So what this means is if I go and apply this policy to 100 machines, they're not going to all back up at 8:00 a.m. It will stagger them over that 15-minute window to spread the networking and the impact on my backup server or my NAS to hitting all of these images. So this is a really great way to stage this out and randomize the start time across all of those machines. Once you've created the policy, if we go and take a look at one of them here, I can immediately assign endpoints straight to this policy, which means these machines will pick up the backup job. A better way in which I prefer to do this is actually under the organizations. This is where we can create the customers or the physical sites, the geographical sites rather, and if I click on Assign Endpoints, I can go and select a machine and assign it to that group. Now what that means is in the group itself, if I edit this, I can apply the policy, the SPX backup policy, to this group. So this is a far more better way to scale this out to larger environments. I can have a whole bunch of machines sitting in this group or this site and apply the policy once to that group, and then automatically all of the machines will receive that backup policy and start backing up according to that schedule. Of course, the first full backup with those continuous jobs, we might want to schedule to, perhaps kick off from 6 p.m. over the following 12 hours to perhaps again minimize that impact to the system. For each organization and site, we can also assign primary and secondary contacts who may receive reporting or alerts. So we'll take a look at what that may consist of shortly as well. Now the next thing you may have noticed when I opened up that VMM01 server is that this machine is actually running Virtual Machine Manager. So for any of your larger sites running System Center, you can install this free StorageCraft plugin. And what this does is it's pretty basic, but it gives us visibility of your entire environment. So I can see here in this graph I've got 6 machines in green which are all good, and I've got 1 machine which is unknown. It doesn't have our software installed on it, it's not protected. I can see here there's no red, so there's nothing failing, but it's giving me a nice graph, and it feeds all of this information back into ShadowControl. If I click on this little one, it tells me that RDO2 does not have ShadowProtect software on it, so we can go and deploy that. If I scroll down, it can give me information on alerts and recent activity as well. So just quickly jumping back to ShadowControl under Managed Endpoints, we have the function down here to push install. Now, Managed Endpoints is going to list any machine that has been registered to the appliance with the ShadowControl agent. Under this, you can also import CSV host lists. So this would include any importing a CSV list of any machine on the same network as where ShadowControl is running. So this is less relevant for those multi-tenancy scenarios where you're managing customers, but if you're running ShadowControl on your own network, you can use the CSV host list to quickly deploy out to a whole bunch of workstations or servers, Windows or Linux. And then also I have got the System Center here. Now this plugin is exactly the same functionality as the plugin for vCenter as well. They're both free plugins. The vCenter plugin looks exactly the same, but in this particular demonstration I have the System Center one. So on the right here, if I click on Push Install, this lists all of the machines that have been pulled into ShadowControl via System Center. And you can see these little green arrows mean there are updates to be pushed out. And if I select on action here and go, I want to install SPX, it's going to list all the machines that don't have the software on it at all. So if I go and select this machine, and again I could go and select a whole lot at once here and go push install, I can say install start immediately, and then I can go ahead here and specify credentials. So if I go STC admin password, I can immediately apply it to an organization. So example here, Auckland is automatically going to pick up that backup job. I can use my perpetual license keys or an MSP account. So this is great for our MSP partners. And go connect to MSP portal. This will go and connect in, and then I can choose a group to go and pull down a key. So I've got here Karl Demo and Training, internal keys. And again, because I've applied it to an organization which has a policy, I don't need to do that from here. Click I agree and push install. All endpoints will require a reboot. Now, what I'm actually doing here is I'm pushing out SPX, but for this to work, what it's actually going to do is it's going to push out the ShadowControl agent first, the endpoint agent that doesn't require a reboot, and then it will push out SPX. For our customers in multi-tenancy, if you've already installed the ShadowControl endpoint agent, then over the internet you can push out the ShadowProtect SPX software. In this instance, I'm using the System Center plugin. It's on the same network. The same would apply to the CSV imports. This allows me to actually directly push out the endpoint agent as well, which is the advantage here. So I go ahead and click on OK. And we can see here it's lining up the ShadowControl. Afterwards it will then do the endpoint install. And if I'd gone and selected a whole bunch of machines, it just does them one at a time, one after the other. Obviously once ShadowProtect's installed, it gives me an option here to reboot the machine. It won't automatically do that, or you can manually do it at a suitable time. Once the SPX software has been installed, you can then reboot the machine, and then what you can actually do is that policy that has been assigned will automatically apply and the machine will start backing up according to the schedule. So the push install is really great. It's a really fast and rapid way for deployment. If we go back to manage endpoints and moving on, look at license pool. This gives us the ability to import license keys into ShadowControl. These are for perpetual keys. I can assign the keys to particular sites or groups or customers, and what it does is it shows us the remaining activations. So if you import an SPX 12 pack of virtual keys, it will show us how many are remaining on the activation, and you can click the button to rescan and check that at any time. If I scroll down, there's even one there for remaining sockets on a particular key as well, which is really useful. So that can also be used for the push installer to leverage those license keys. Just moving on from this, under user accounts and roles, we can create a role which will give a user access to just certain sites or organizations. You can make them admin rights or read-only, and or you could have your customer log in and just be able to see their servers, which works really well. Status rules, this is a really great feature. I'll dig in there and show you this one. This defines what will go green or red on the dashboard. So you can really eliminate noise. If you're not too concerned that a backup fails, then the good news is by default, it will only go red as a critical severity if there's no good backup within an hour. So if you're backing up every 15 minutes and one job here or there might fail for whichever reason, it's only going to alert you if it stays failed for over an hour. So this is a really good way to control and eliminate any sort of noise. Backup failure rate, perhaps, if 3 in a row fail out of 5 backups and you want it to let you override that and let you know because there's a longer period of outage. VSS backups is probably a good one to enable. And this one down here, paused backup. This is a pain point for some of our partners because an engineer might go ahead and pause a backup job, and therefore it's not going to send out a failure note because the backups aren't failing, it's been left paused. So this will actually alert us to the fact that a job has been left paused. Options on disk usage, if the backup jobs are unmanaged by Image Manager, subscription or license expiration, and then coming down to Image Manager. So we'll take a look at that one next, but we can get alerting on disk usage, verification, consolidation, and replication issues. So that's a good one. If you're replicating off-site and someone's monitoring that, we can say, look, if it exceeds 20 queued files, then alert us as, a warning or a critical perhaps on the dashboard so that we can go and look at, maybe we need to throw more bandwidth at it or look at what's actually going on there. Maybe their internet has been down and it's catching up. So it's a really good way to control what's happening on the dashboard. If I drill back into endpoints and look at the server here, HV01, and scroll right down here, it's detected that Image Manager is installed. If I go to folder details, it's going to list a bunch of folders here. Now there's a few here with a warning state. These machines just haven't received backups in the last 7 days. This particular machine here, SQL01 has a replication job. It's replicating to the StorageCraft cloud, and I can see here there's 0 queued files. So this updates every 5 minutes. It can alert me if it exceeds a threshold on the dashboard, so I don't need to look in here. It can also show me the status of any Head Start Restore jobs as well. So this is really great way to monitor what's going on. We do have in the roadmap ShadowControl version 4, which is going to introduce more capabilities around management of Image Manager. But at this stage, really great way for monitoring any issues with your image management at any site. Moving on from that, we've looked at organizations. Final one down here is reports. So a super admin report is kind of like the dashboard. This logo can be customized to suit a customer or partner. We get the sort of status lights on the various products. We get information per group on the backup, when the last job ran and how big it was. Summary on the Image Manager folders and images and the storage used. And then right down the bottom, some forecasting. This is based on historical usage and can sort of give you a trend on what to expect over the next 12 months at the current rate of growth. So this is quite useful. There's some other good reports actually. There's a good one on licensing to show you all your perpetual license keys. And this backups one, though I don't run a lot of backups in this particular demonstration, it's segregated by customer or organization or site. And then I can see the status of percentage of success rate. So I can see this machine 100% success rate. It's done 8 backups today. It did 4 on the 24th at 100%. But I can see they're all 100%, which means that there's been no failures. I can also edit this report to define at what percentage of failures or successful backups will present as a warning or critical, etc. So this is a really great way for a very fast, high-level overview of your entire ShadowProtect environments to see what's going on there, which is really good. And that's basically it today. I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's a great overview on using ShadowControl for deployment, using the push install and automation by having those policies in place to automatically start managing those backups. Again, it works really well in a multi-tenancy scenario or otherwise for a larger customer or a larger environment, again, running your own ShadowControl. As I mentioned, it's totally free, really great way to reduce sort of having these emails from every ShadowProtect and Image Manager sending emails on failures or notifications, is to centralize this in this great centralized monitoring and management appliance. So again, my name's Karl Thomson from StorageCraft Australia, New Zealand. Thanks for your time today.